Good evening. This is the meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7 p.m. and the date is December 13, 2016. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. The board consists of 5 members and 2 alternates. The alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Present tonight are members Ms. Betty Hollow, Ms. Joan Krainansky, Ms. Lisa Carson, and Mr. Ed Baum, who will be a voting member tonight. I am John Golsey, the chair. Also present is the zoning administrator, Mr. Rick Serois. And at this time, I invite you to view a pre-recorded video on the rules and procedures of the board.
The Athens Board of Zoning Appeals operates according to the following procedures. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts pertaining to it. The appellant or their representative will review the slide appeal to be reviewed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding, summary, or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor will be closed. The board will preliminary decision. According to Athens City Code, Section 20.07.03b, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, the spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code, Section 23.07.10c, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact, based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property for which variance is sought, one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens, aggrieved by a decision of the board, may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the board to the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, the case number 16-12V, the property at 17.5 South Lancaster has been postponed until February 2017. And we have two cases tonight on tonight's agenda. Case number one would be 16-13V, the property at 2065 East Estate Street. And the next one would be case number 16-14V, the property at 188 North Lancaster Street. The board requires to take a testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak concerning any item on the agenda please stand? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. Our first case is case number 16-13V. The property is at 2065 East Estate Street. The zone is B3, and the Knight Sign Company is the appellant. Appellant is requesting a variance or variances from ACC 2303-13I-4D to allow a freestanding sign with 254 square feet in area, where 50 square feet in area is the maximum allowed. And from ACC 2303-13I-5 to allow a freestanding sign 60 feet 7 3/4 inches in height, where 30 feet in height is the maximum allowed. Mr. Sorois, anything you want to add to this case, or?
Well, this case involves the sign being placed on the side of 50, Route 50. So it's down below where the freeway goes over, and East Street goes underneath it. The property is right on the corner, so our calculations were based on it coming off the 2-lane that goes to the property, not taking into account the 4 lanes. Follow that?
Okay, many questions for Mr. Sorois?
I guess, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but how close to the city limits is this?
Oh, it's in the city limits.
Okay.
It's within the city limits. Do you know where Holzer is?
Oh, no, I was at the spot.
Oh, okay.
No, I know exactly where the spot is. I'm just questioning how
Yeah.
close to the city limits is this proposed sign? Do you have any idea? I didn't check it out, so I don't know myself.
Well, it's within the city limits.
Okay,
Yeah, and the East State Street
correct,
goes all the way on the other side of Holzer, way down the road there.
Correct.
Yeah, the property, yeah.
okay.
Okay, would the appellant please come to the podium?
We're at the second case.
So we don't have the appellant. If you don't have the appellant,
That's it.
we shouldn't be
Nope.
discussing it right now. So we will either table it maybe for the next time, or
Right, we'll
we are not
contact
going to
them again.
continue here in that case. So,
Do you need a formal motion?
yes, go ahead.
I move to table this until our next meeting.
Second.
Second,
Okay, all in
Yes.
favor? Raise your hand.
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. So we're gonna go to case number 2, case 1614V. The property is on 188 North Lancaster Street. Zone is R1, Links Layer Properties, the appellant. The appellant is requesting variances from ACC 2304-1 to allow an office building use in an R1 zone where such use is not allowed. And ACC 2310 Table B Office Street parking requirements to allow an office building use with 0 parking spaces where at least 2 parking spaces are required. Again, Mr. Sorois, any comments on this?
I have no comments, but I best let the appellate speak.
Okay. Would the appellant please come to the podium and state your name and your address for the records, please?
Good evening. I'm John Ross with Links Layer Properties. Address would be P.O. Box 5569, Athens, Ohio. As much as I could entertain you with drawn-out explanation of why I think this building should be used, should be allowed to be used as an office. It's really pretty simple to me. As long as I've been here, it's been a business use. I moved here in the 90s. I believe it was a pizza shop at that point. It's been a sub. They made sub sandwiches in there. And now the seller, I'm attempting to purchase the property contingent that I can use it as an office for my business. The seller has been using it as a business as well for a dental lab. So that's my case. I would also like to point out that I would like to put in parking, just need to purchase the property before.
Where could that possibly be, parking?
There's room to the left of the building. I know it's kind of a hillside,
Okay,
but
let's face the building. You're saying the parking is to the left of
to
it?
the left, yes. There's
I
room.
thought that was where it dropped off steeply over the hill.
It is pretty steep.
It's like a 90-degree angle.
They built a building on it. So
Oh, there
I,
it is. All right.
I feel like I did have a contractor look at it, and we do feel like we could put a couple parking spots in there. When I spoke to one of the code officers, they let me know that I believe if it was a parking greater than 10 feet, but less than 30, it was maybe a little easier to get the curb cut done. So that would be my hope, would be to put parking in there.
How many, two parkings?
At least, I'm hoping at least two or three.
Okay, well, if
Again,
that's the case, then we probably shouldn't grant a variance now, because that would go with the
Well,
property.
But there are two issues. One
Yeah, I know,
is the
yeah.
business in the
Yeah,
residential
yeah,
area.
just for the parking.
Yeah.
And in that case, can we consider maybe conditional use, or?
I would think you could.
We have a question down here, I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I do have a question about the contractor that you discussed building the parking spaces.
Uh-huh.
Is the space going to be directed down the hill, or is he going to flatten it out for the space?
It would be flattened.
Okay, that
Yeah.
was my main concern, was that they would flatten it out, because line of sight there is.
Yes, I would not want to drive away that steep.
Yeah, I think you couldn't pass. Right, yeah, that would not pass.
I really didn't want to make that an issue as far as getting the zoning, the variance, because my purchase contract is contingent that I get the variance, and if I don't get the variance, it'll be hard to proceed with the purchase of the building at this point.
Okay, one of the things we haven't, that was not included here, is that you say it's an office. How many people will be actually occupying the office space?
I would think no more than a couple. I don't have a specific number for you. It's myself for my rental company. I may like to share it with an electrician I know as
So
well.
then there would be
So-
two businesses located on the site?
Potentially, yes.
So would you anticipate that your tenants would be coming by to pay their rent?
Yeah, or maybe sign a lease, somewhere they could drop off rent.
Well, I guess the question that Ms. Kronowski and I both have is not necessarily for you, but for the code officer. So if there should be even one employee in the building and people coming to do business, then how did you arrive at two parking spaces being the basic necessity?
That's a good question.
Was it size of the building, maybe?
It's probably the size of square feet.
Yeah, it says Table B,
So
office
based
space
on the
parking
square foot of the
requirements.
property,
Well, but you also
building.
have to consider how it's going to be used. How
Correct.
many people will be in the building who would potentially bring cars, i.e. the workers and the clients.
Right, so use of the office space to use the office space, right? Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
But I think the larger question is, if it can't be used as a business, which apparently it has been for a very long time, and I'd like to know actually how long, then what other use is there for the building? Because if it's a residential thing, then it requires 2 parking spaces.
Right.
So it seems like somebody is between rocks and hard places.
It's always been a business, and I do, as a carry-out pizza shop, I would say a lot of customers came in and out. How many employees do you have now?
We now have 4.
His business is growing.
We
He is,
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that there was a variance granted for that.
Right.
And I thought there would be, at that point, 1 person that would be you in there. I didn't realize there'd be 4 people there.
Well, that was, I thought that I would own the business and be the only person running it until the day I died.
Can we just have you come to the podium?
Okay.
And then, yeah.
do you have any more questions for me right
You
now?
you can have a seat, but you can come back again, and then we'll hear from him. Please just state your name and your address, please.
Drew Ford. I live at 20 Roxbury Drive here in Athens. I've been in the building, I think 12 years, 13 years, and when I bought it, my kids were growing up and none of them showed interest in what I did. I thought they were going to go into different career directions, and they did. And then my youngest son was a firefighter in Huntington, West Virginia, and had his first child and decided he didn't want to be in West Virginia and he didn't want to be a firefighter. So he came back, he got training, and I thought that was a great thing. He came on, we started expanding the business, and then my daughter and son-in-law moved from Columbus to Athens. He got training. Now I have people to pass the business along to, but we have another employee and my wife comes in. So on any given day, there's 5 vehicles there. And I know I bought the place,
Well, so they're just on the street, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Now, when I bought it, part of the grandfathering, if I remember correctly, was there was a 30-minute parking, and there were 3 spaces there from when it was a pizza shop. And I had asked if that would be grandfathered, and if I remember correctly, it was. And that was for people in and out, because I have patients that come from doctor's offices and stop in, and we have to do a few things, and then they go on their way.
So describe to me what you mean by the 3 parking spaces.
Well, there was,
Were they-
the distance of the property was the size of 3 spaces, and when I bought it, that was all red curb,
It's still red curb, not so
But
long.
just
but
one
red
spot
curb.
is red
just one
curb.
spot.
One
Right.
spot is
The
red.
city came in, apparently there were some college students that lived along there that have since moved on, but they did some complaining, and the city came in and took 2 of those and left 1.
Well, that was quite a privilege you had.
I'm sorry.
I said that was quite a privilege you had.
Well, it was given to me, it wasn't.
Right, I'm just, no,
Yeah,
I'm not
correct.
denying
Yeah.
that at all. I'm just
And
saying.
when I bought it, I asked, will that be grandfathered? And they said, yes, that would. And then, because I needed the spaces, not for my personal parking,
Well-
but for people coming in. Anyway, it was down to 1.
Okay, so then we need to ask the code officer again, can somebody in the office just suddenly decide to eliminate something that was grandfathered? It's to you.
Well, maybe the business change, that's,
The business changed, so now it's being changed over.
Okay.
So it'll be a different business, so then the grandfathering is going away.
yeah.
Well, it only goes away if there's a change of use. And if it goes business to business, that's not a change of use. It's a change of business, but it's still a business, so
Well, what would be a change of
No, I
the use
thought
then,
it came to the
example?
well,
Board,
if you
I thought you
decided
got
to
a
make it
variance.
a residential property, it is in a residential zone.
But
That
also,
would be-
yeah, I'm sorry, also you have a nonconformity. See, and we can't,
Yes, it's non-conforming either
Right.
way, almost. So, okay.
But Betty,
So-
I need to ask you a
Yeah.
question. If I'm not mistaken, this was, previous businesses were grandfathered, but when this business was set up on this particular piece of property, it came before the Board of Zoning Appeals, he got a variance.
Well, I don't see that in front of us, and I don't
I
remember
know, I
it.
don't see it either.
yeah, I didn't put the case together, I apologize, so I don't have all the answers.
And so it wasn't all grandfathered in, it actually was a variance, it gave him the opportunity to use that space. I mean, that was,
So the variance was to use it with no parking.
yes,
Okay.
correct.
So if he had a variance to use it with no parking, then I don't know why that variance wouldn't continue if it's not a change of use, because business to business is not a change of use. So,
Even if the property changes hands?
no, if it's still a business and it had a variance, the variance goes
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
property
Okay.
unless there's
I'd
a
also-
change of use.
Or was the variance for the business?
I don't know, I don't have, I
Yeah, I
can't
think
remember
we
all
need to
those
find
cases.
out.
So we need to find that out, and I know you need to know what's happening.
The variance was for a business use.
Well,
I
so
would have brought the
Okay.
paper from when he got it. I assumed you had everything.
the variance would have been to allow you to, someone to run the business with no parking. That would have been the variance.
Well, we don't know that.
If it was,
I don't think it, and I didn't see any mention to
About
it
parking?
using it. It was to use it as a dental lab.
well, they wouldn't have specified, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered what the business was particularly.
Okay. The paper I
But-
saw specifically.
But if it already has a variance, that variance continues unless there's some extreme
It's-
reason for it not to.
It said it was conditional that when the property transfers, it reverts back to an R1.
Oh, okay, all right.
It
So
specifically
was-
said that
it
on,
had
says
a
that on the
condition.
See,
document.
Okay.
this is
all right.
a problem.
I'd also like to point out that there's a B1, there is one house in between this property and all the other offices up on North Lancaster that are B1 and have parking on that side of the road,
Well-
off-street parking.
I guess the bottom line for me is whatever this property is, whether it's business, it really is going to require a variance of some sort to go back to residential because it has no parking.
And that's fine if I can get a variance to use it as an office, but it doesn't transfer. That's what we were expecting today.
So are
We
you
need advice.
suggesting that they are okay as they are? We don't
No,
need-
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking questions to try to find out
Yeah,
what's
well,
going
if,
on.
you know, based on the previous variance, it seems to me that they don't need any variance.
Well, we
No,
don't know
because of
that.
what it said, it was conditional, reverts back if it's
Reverts
sold.
back to
It had a
non-residential.
limit on it, if that's actually the case.
Well,
and
he says if
it
it's going
is.
back to the residential.
No.
No.
He said it
It
had to,
reverts
something
back
has
to
to
an
happen.
R1.
If it transfers, it reverts to an
Okay,
R1.
all right,
Oh,
okay. So it seems he needs a variance.
So I think we are in great need of small office spaces in this town, and I don't disagree with that. My difficulty is you presenting, I mean, we didn't get enough information, as far as I'm concerned. We didn't understand what the business was about, and you're talking about maybe putting in two businesses, and then we're talking about two people, and then we're talking about people coming and going. This is the difficulty. That's high-density parking up there. It's difficult to park up there. So I guess I would feel more comfortable if you could come back with plans showing parking. And
But,
because otherwise we're granting you a variance and to the property, once again, for this business. Are we going to do a conditional, if we did a conditional for this business and then have it revert back again and go through this whole process? But when the original variance was for one individual and then there were four, and no one's following up on that, and that was 4 parking places. And so it's difficult to have follow-up from the code for the number of occupants in that building. I'm having a lot of difficulty with that. Not with you using it for your office, you as a rental place, and maybe occasionally
Well,
somebody came
my
by.
issue is that if he is going to provide two parking, then I don't think we should grant that parking variance part, you know, the second part of it. So
I'm sorry, you said if he provides parking, we shouldn't approve it?
we shouldn't even discuss it. If
We
he's
don't
going-
need to do
we
the,
should-
but
yeah.
he's not showing us plans,
Yeah,
or we don't
yeah,
have anything
that's- yeah.
concrete on that,
Right
John,
now-
so.
So that's what I'm thinking about, maybe tabling this as well.
Well, I do just want to say that if you just, without formally going through the findings, think through the findings, then there are exceptional circumstances, and there would be hardship and various other things, but
Now, what I'm saying, if we grant the variance as it is in here, then he doesn't even have to do the parking.
he does have to do the parking. That's what the variance is for, at least in part.
No,
Why
He
to
wants,
do-
no, he wants
he
zero
wants a
parking.
variance for the
He
parking.
wants a variance for parking, zero parking.
Okay, I
So
got
if we
that.
grant, then he doesn't have to build it. He's already got the variance, he doesn't have to build the parking.
Yeah.
But if we give him the variance for the use, then, you know, I think we need to come back, he needs to come back with some parking plans so we can, I think with the parking, I wouldn't have any problem using that building for a small office. Something that doesn't interfere with residential activities. And this wouldn't, as the other business that was there
It's been a
didn't.
business for
Right,
at
that's-
least 20 years.
Right.
At least, and I heard it even back into the 70s, I was
Back into the 40s.
told stories of it. There was a motorcycle repair shop.
Right, so I think that it's fine, but I think we need to see some off-street parking to grant a variance.
Well, then the variance would simply be to allow it to continue as a business.
That is correct.
Yeah, I was hoping today to get a variance to allow it to continue to run as a business, so that I could move forward with the purchase of the property. At which point later I was hoping to address, because I see value, as being a real estate investor, I see value into having parking there. So I don't see a high volume of people coming in and out. 95% or more of my people pay rent online now, but occasionally I need a space to sign a lease or something, which is, you know, in and out in 10 to 15 minutes.
So,
I would ask that you would allow us to continue using it as a business, just to give us the variance to continue using it as a business. And then
and
would
I
come
would
back.
suggest maybe, we don't want to do it?
I don't think so.
You don't want to give him a conditional use for the business?
If he's going to put in 2 spaces, why don't we specify 2 spaces? And forget about the variance
Well,
he
if
had
he's,
before.
then there would be no variance, you know, if he's going to provide
Well,
two
as long as
No, there
spaces.
has to be a variance because it's reverted back to an R1.
Yeah.
That was, okay, and so we have to do the variance so that he can operate as if he were in a B1. But we could write it up, the variance is based on
2 parking
the
spaces.
construction of 2 parking places based on the number of square footage.
Right.
That's what we base it on, correct?
Right. Well, what they did is Table B,
Right.
do business, it's one for every 300 square foot area, so that's how we came up with it.
Okay.
And how many square foot? Do we know how many square foot? Or-
I don't have that on me.
Okay,
900.
About 900, so
300,
900,
it's 300, yeah.
300.
and we need 1 space for every 300?
Yes.
So that means he needs 3 parking
3
places?
parking spaces.
Right, so we need 3 parking places. And that would satisfy somebody, an electrician, maybe if they had a small business,
Well,
him, and somebody coming and going. He's
I
got
don't
3
think you
places.
can construct 3 parking spaces up there, maybe.
We
you
believe
could.
there was 3 on-street parking with the red curb up there.
I know, but
But
if
you
you were
can't,
going to
that's
construct it,
gone.
could
What's
you
that?
construct a place with 3 parking spaces?
That the property was wide enough for 3. That's,
But it's all down the hill.
that would be flattened out.
They're going to level it, they're going to,
Okay.
Build a retaining wall, essentially.
and that would make that property then much more valuable if you did that.
That's my idea.
In the long run,
you know.
absolutely.
I'm trying to make it a nicer space and get some parking off street in the long run.
Well, suppose we did,
And with the other B1s right there, it is a small little business
right.
zone.
So I'm asking the question to the board and to you.
Yeah.
If we gave you a conditional use permit, which would last for 1 year, then would that be something that would allow you to purchase the property and go ahead with some parking? I would be talking about 2 spaces if I made the motion.
It would pretty much be granting the variance contingent that I have 2 parking
Right.
spaces in.
And if
within
you
a year.
didn't within a year or whatever condition, well, it's usually for a year. So if we let you have that for a year, and at the end of it, you didn't have that, then you would have to come back and stew around with us again.
Oh, it's been a pleasure so far.
Well, Betty, if it's 900 square feet, I think we need to ask for 3 parking places. If he's going to do that construction.
But, you know, that's why people come for variances, because they don't have quite enough. And
Right.
going from 0 to 2 is,
We should probably say, reward the variance that, to grant the variance for 3 spaces where 2 is available.
what? Grant a
No.
variance for,
Grant the
why don't
variance,
you just give him a variance?
no,
That's-
for 3 spaces.
2, just say 2, that would be extraordinary up there.
Well, with 2, if he is going to provide 2, then we don't need to give him a variance.
The condition, it's conditional.
I'm talking about not a variance, but a
he-
conditional
if he's-
use for
if
Well,
1 year.
conditional use, by the way, conditional use is not for, is forever, isn't it? It's not for 1 year.
It's for 1 year.
What does it say for 1 year?
Well, it depends on,
Depends upon the motion.
yes.
Yeah,
It's
but There's
conditional.
another thing that is for 1
It's
year. What is that?
conditional on something else happening. It's conditional on his providing the parking by the time that conditional
Yeah,
use
I
runs
don't
out.
see that one.
Well,
year.
but under conditionally permitted, it says conditional use complies with all applicable city regulations, which means 3 parking places.
And the variance would be letting him have it for 2.
Right.
Right,
But,
thank you.
but it's,
Otherwise, if he could provide 3 parking spaces, he wouldn't need to do it.
no, but the conditional we're giving him is so that he can operate as a B1 in an R1 zone.
But
with-
the
Yes.
second condition is that he
Or
build
2.
2 parking spaces. The variance is 2 parking spaces. You want to try a motion?
Well, not with people insisting on 3 parking spaces.
No. Well, I think we have enough for it allowed.
So what do you think about
One
it?
more
sure?
question I have for you. Did you say what was the nature of the business? Was it dental lab?
It currently is a
Yeah, it's a
dental
dental
lab.
lab.
Yeah,
Okay,
they-
what is the
They
proposed?
make teeth in there.
But what is the proposed
Rental
A rental office.
rental office?
Yeah.
office and
So
possibly
business.
electrician.
Business or professional office,
Yeah.
one for every 300 square foot of area.
Business park, industrial park.
That's right. It's in a B1, be quiet, industrial park.
So we would be granting conditional use for 1 year and
A variance.
2 parking places where 3 would be required.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask the applicant a question. If you're bringing the contractor in to build the 2 spaces, how much more effort will it take to make the 3?
I can't, I don't think it would take more as long as, essentially there's enough room for it, which I don't have all those figures. I haven't specifically measured to see if there's 3.
Because generally with a contractor, if they're coming in to do something, you know,
I would be happy, I want to put in as much as I can in the long
Right.
run. That the city will allow, you have to get a curb cut.
right. Have you talked to the city about the curb cut?
I spoke with a couple of the code officers, and it sounded like I was within the limits. I can't specifically tell you what he said. It was more than 10 feet, less than 30 feet, I think, of curb cut is easier to get done, is what they told me. Yeah.
I spoke several years ago when I brought on 2 employees early on with one of the code guys and somebody I knew from school, and we just talked off the record, and he said it would be very simple to do the what he's talking about, put the spaces in, and what was there would allow for, it fell into the parameters that the city needed for the curb cut.
Right, because it's already yellow lined, you can't park there, right?
Yeah.
So to put a curb cut in a spot like that is
Right.
optimizing the space, basically.
Well, there would still be room directly in front of the place for a parking space and just beyond. I know there's a 1.5 foot yellow curb, I think that's required at the cuts, but it did leave space for, or it did have room for, plenty of parking. And I guess I have a question for you guys. I'm not sure if it's 900. I don't think that it is 900. Is it, if it's at 900, it has to be 3 spaces?
Correct, it's a space for every 300 square foot is what the code
So
officer is
what
saying.
would be required if it was 775 or
2.
800?
Two.
2? Because I don't believe it's 900 square feet.
Well, we need to know.
Right, I mean, it's kind of hard. I think we're not in sympathy for what you're trying to do here, but to have some specifics would be beneficial.
Yeah. I don't have the blueprint on the place, but when I bought it, I was moving from a 400 square foot rented place to this, and it felt like I doubled my space. And I remember measuring it, and I know it's not 900. And I can't remember if it was 750, 775, 825, I can't remember. I measured it 12 years ago when I bought it, and
I have it right here, I just found it.
Pulling it up.
I just found the property card. It's 400 square feet.
20 by 20.
Yep, 20 by 20.
The building space,
Yep.
usable
The
building space?
Usable building space.
Oh, then 2 parking places, more
Two
insufficient.
parking spaces.
Good.
Well, not, but we didn't know that. We thought it
Yeah.
was 900, right?
Yeah,
yeah, I knew it wasn't 9.
Thank you, that was excellent.
sorry, I just,
Yeah,
trying to
too many
find it.
papers.
too many papers. Yeah.
And I have also a question for you. From my recollection, we had 2 different types of use permit. One was temporary use permit, which goes for 1 year. One was for conditional use, which goes forever. Am I correct? So,
Goes forever?
well, temporary use
Temporary.
permit is for 1 year and then could be renewed. But
Now,
conditional
conditional
use goes forever.
So what's the condition?
The conditions, you have to go through this,
You have to
those
read these under,
right here. all of
yeah,
those.
conditional use is issued, yeah,
Section 2307-2.
E,
8 describes that we have the power to do that, and E has the conditions, 1, 2, 3.
yeah, that's where I was reading, that's what I was reading
Yeah.
from, that it has to
Well,
comply
she was
with
mentioning
all.
that it was for 1 year, but that's not for 1 year. That's temporary use permit is for 1
Right.
year.
So surely at the end of 1 year, you would know whether you could provide those parking spaces or not.
Yes, I believe so.
So how does a temporary use permit strike you then?
It's just a matter of moving forward with the contract as we have written it up. I was hoping to get a variance just to continue using it as a business the way
Well,
it is. With the
the
hope that
temporary
that's
use
what-
permit would allow you to do that for a year.
Yeah.
And then the condition is that by the end of the year, you would have provided 2 parking spaces. And if not, you would have to come back and,
Would the conditional
Deal.
use permit be,
It's
Well, this is
temporary,
gonna be-
We're
this-
temp-
it's a
change the term,
temporary-
would it be
temporary.
stated as use as a B1,
Yes.
Yes.
I think I could make that work.
Okay, except the
should-
problematic issue with that, Betty, is if, then he still has to come back, if it's a temporary one, for a year,
It gives him a
And
year to get 2 parking spaces.
reapply.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, then I have
just,
to reapply,
no matter what.
even if the parking spaces are in, I have to come back and reapply after I've made that investment?
You can also come back and ask for another year after that, so up to
I
2
don't think
years, I
that's the
guess.
issue that he's
Yeah.
talking about.
Right,
Doesn't-
yes.
So
when
you have the
it's-
time, but as far as
I
you
just-
have to come back for the parking again.
Right.
You will have to come back for a conditional then, probably would give you conditional based, you have the parking places for as long as the business is in existence, and then we would revert back to R1, maybe like the original variance
transfer.
did.
But again, that makes no sense because it would still need a variance if it turned residential. So there's nothing to be gained by making it residential.
Well, it would
Okay.
have 2 parking places if he comes back.
Okay.
I would
Right.
be a little leery of making the investment to put in the parking, without knowing that I could continue using it as a business.
I
it
understand.
is a
Yes, I know
considerable
what you're
investment.
saying, right,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
But we wouldn't change. Yeah, this is confusing. But we wouldn't object to its use as a business in 1 year.
Well, but he doesn't want to invest in making parking.
And then count
If
on
you're going to come back and
all
people
of
say,
us,
oh, no, we didn't mean that at all.
moving out of town, somebody else saying, oh, no.
The next- yeah.
Right.
That would be crazy, though.
Yeah, I know that would, but still, we have to count on, he needs to count as much as we need
Yeah.
to count on his sincerity and what's happening
Yeah.
here.
Would be contingent on the installation of the 2 parking spaces?
Yeah, I think that's what we should do, is a conditional contingent on the, so you can go forward, but
Yeah.
you have to go forward. You have to think
Without any
about doing these
guarantee.
parking places right away.
Right. Well, I need some, a little better weather to work. I was hoping to get it done in the summertime,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you would have,
less inclement weather.
well, now we're talking about a conditional use versus a temporary use permit?
Conditional use
Conditional, yeah.
is forever, is a
Okay.
variance.
No, we get,
It's not a variance.
no, the last conditional use was until
Conditional
the
use variance.
property was sold, and then it
That's new.
reverted back.
You could make a temporary conditional use. There's nothing illogical about it.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, condition for use permit.
We'll have to see we want to make sure that you
Okay.
understand the
Are we
difference.
It
taking
says
off the
right
board?
here,
Is there
conditional
any
uses for
possibility
which
of
a
getting the
permit is
variance
issued are
as we
permitted
came
in the
in,
zone.
just to continue
Is
using
this
it
not
as a
in,
business?
that's not in the zone.
Is there-
To split it up,
Then that's what the variance.
no,
is.
because we
Conditional
can't
use, yeah.
split it up, because it's tied to itself.
still is a
Both
variance, so you have to-
sections,
you
the
can't-
parking
Change that.
is what we find detrimental. If we gave you the variance, then for just,
There would be no
business.
arrangement for the parking.
without the arrangement for the parking,
You would have to take me at my word that the parking would be in, I guess.
right, and you don't want to take us at our word that we would give you the full conditional variance when you came back in a year.
It's hard to make that investment.
I totally
I
understand.
would have to take it into consideration. It would be hard to make that considerable of investment without a little more guarantee.
It doesn't even work.
It is problematic, little property.
But, and I think we somehow need to word this so that it's workable, to allow.
Okay, Joan, this is what I suggest, you know.
Okay.
We say appellants requesting a variance from ACC 23 to allow an office building use in an R1 Zone 1, where such as things, and then say, with the condition that they provide 2 parking spaces. Because we can always add conditions to the variance.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Yes, and that's simple, and
So
I,
read the first couple lines, and they say, with the conditions, and forget about the ACC 2310 Table B office street parking. Just say, with the condition that the property provides 2 parking spaces.
Yeah, that's good.
That's simple.
Are we going
Is
to
there a
also
time limit on
include, if the property is sold,
No, this is what they requested, so we just,
we'll just do this because if the parking places aren't there, then it's.
we only make it one variance with the condition.
Right.
For two. Would that work for you?
It seems reasonable.
Once again, it requires you
It
to,
requires me to put the parking in.
But-
Yes, and that's what you
And
say
I-
you want.
Right.
Do it.
And you could work with the code office, and as soon as the weather is, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, I live around the corner. If I don't see it this summer, trust me.
I-
You'll know where to find me.
Would he be able to be using it?
Yeah.
No?
I think they have a
Senate.
year before to put the
This-
parking in, so you have a
Right.
year, I guess, before the variance expires.
the variance is for now. The
Yes,
condition is to
You have
be
to fulfill the
fulfilled.
condition.
to be fulfilled, yeah.
What do you think?
It seems reasonable.
Okay.
You know, I was hoping just to get a variance to use it as a building. I'd hate to beat a dead horse if that's
Well, the
what I'm
variance,
doing here, but
the variance will give you
it
that.
frees me up to purchase the property without a concern that, that I have to put in parking within a certain time frame, I guess.
Well-
I think that's, I think it's a year, I don't know, but you can talk to the
So
code
can I
office.
add one thing to it, maybe with the condition that 2 parking places be provided on site?
Yeah.
Be built?
That's what we're talking about, on
I know, but I want to put it in here, so,
Off-street parking. Off-street parking.
Yeah,
Required.
It already says it office street parking anyway.
Right.
That's the language.
We're
Do
ready.
we want to say that it be built on the property or just?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get
Well,
at.
It's got to be in the property,
That's
somewhere in the
understood.
property.
So that 2 parking spaces be built on the property?
Yes,
Condition,
I
yeah.
think that's,
Yeah. There's no other place you can go.
Yeah.
well, you could come back and say, well, I can't get them, maybe I can get them, get.
Across the
rent
street
Yeah,
somewhere.
right, that's all I'm saying, so I just want to make it clear, right?
No, it is on the property.
On the
yeah,
property, okay.
On the property.
If it turns out that it is impossible to build 2 parking spaces there, then you'll have to come back with that information
Right.
to the zoning officers.
Right.
But you have some assurance from a contractor that
We did look
you
at
think
it,
it could be
yes.
done?
Yeah, we took a look at it,
Okay,
but, we obviously didn't dig into the ground
Sure,
or anything
okay.
Okay,
to see what we found, but we think it's doable.
I think we have it.
you think you're okay with what we think we're doing?
Betty,
Seems a little vague, but yeah, I do.
The
It
variance will
seems
give you-
reasonable.
Yeah, the variance isn't
gives you
vague.
permission to use the building as a business right now, as soon as the variance is taken care of by the code office. And then the parking, we assume that you in good faith will continue to work on that problem and work it
Okay.
out. Okay.
And, I guess the only thing I would like to clarify, am I required to come back in a year
No.
with
No.
evidence? Okay.
Yeah,
Only if you don't build the parking.
If I don't build,
No,
it
the
would
parking.
revert to an R1, I guess, at that point,
Yes.
right?
yeah.
So,
And you can also verify with the code office about the time limit of 1 year to make sure that's 1 year or not, and what it
make sure
is.
I can get the curb cut and everything else
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need within that time frame, which is a learning experience for me.
Anything else you would like to add? Any other questions for the appellant?
No,
So you may be
nothing for me.
seated. Sir, do you have anything to add? Okay.
you want me
Usually
to
we
read it?
ask for others to, if there's any opposition or general commentary, we don't have anyone else. So we're going to close the discussion from the floor. You may be seated. John, we got it?
okay. I move that the board approve variance 16-14A for Links Layer Properties, 188 North Lancaster Street.
14V.
Say again. 188 North Lancaster Street.
Okay. If it's the case, I have 14V. I
We
don't know
don't
if
have
that
to
matters.
quote the case.
V,
Yeah,
didn't I say
you
V?
said A, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, V.
That's okay.
For a variance from ACC 230401 to allow an office building use in an R1 zone where such use is not allowed, with the condition that 2 parking spaces be built on the property.
Perfect.
Simple. Thank you, John.
Second?
Second?
You
Okay,
don't
we
want-
have Joan made the motion and Ed, you're the second. Okay. All right, let's go through the findings quickly. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone.
It has been used as a business for as long as anyone can remember.
And there is actually a mix of business and
Not so much,
so much in that area anyway.
not so much.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
the 187 Lancaster, there's offices in there. Practical difficulty and undue hardship.
It's in a ridiculous situation of being in an R1, used as a business, reverting to R1 doesn't work without providing parking, so, okay.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Preservation of equal property rights.
There are other businesses along the street, some social service agencies, but there are some businesses.
Yeah, that's what I was referring. A minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. I think it is.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
Yep.
Absence of detriment.
It's not going to be any worse than it already is. It's a
Yes.
business, so it's not creating anything new.
Well, it's creating new parking places.
New
Yes,
parking
I think
places.
it's
Yes,
actually,
but I mean, in terms of its use.
Yeah.
The parking places will be a bonus.
correct.
Not of a general nature.
No.
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 Are we ready to vote?
Yep.
Those in favor of the variance, please raise your hand. Okay, you have the variance with a vote of 5-0. And again, you can contact the code office for any questions regarding the time limit and so on.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Mr. Soroy, you have a question?
No, I was just raising my hand also in agreement.
Oh, okay.
A little humor there, sorry.
Sorry, you can't vote.
I know.
He wants to, though.
We have 5 members already, so.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Have a good holiday.
Come again
Other-
when you can.
Other businesses, disposition of minutes from November 8, 2016. I have read it and I didn't find anything. Anybody else?
No, I didn't find anything.
Motion to move?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, very good. You adjourn the meeting?
You have to vote on that.
No, you said, oh, on the first one,
On the approval of the minutes.
on the approval of the minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Yep,
Okay, approved. We are adjourned.
wonderful.